Among the NBA's 30 teams, the Warriors have earned a unique distinction through their inaction over the last 3 weeks. Golden State remains the only franchise to not make a single signing or non-draft trade this offseason. After the brief respite of Summer League hoops, the microscope returns to focus on restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga, general manager Mike Dunleavy, and a team looking to build around aging stars Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler. At this point, the reason for their inaction is well documented. The Warriors are hoping to avoid the second apron of the salary cap, which brings stiff penalties for team building. Kuminga is stuck in limbo and is reported to be seeking a contract in the ballpark of $30 million a season in an NBA where precious few teams have cap space. Aside from letting Kuminga walk, Golden State could orchestrate an immediate sign-and trade or bring him back on a deal and reserve the right to trade him mid-season. Kuminga, like fellow RFAs Josh Giddey and Cam Thomas, remains in limbo. Despite being in stasis, the Warriors have been long linked to a pair of unrestricted free agents. Al Horford, 39, is coming off another workmanlike season as the Celtics stretch 5 and has long been linked to the Warriors. While Horford has reported interest from the Lakers, he remains unsigned. The same could be said for DeAnthony Melton, a two-way combo guard who played 6 games for the Warriors last season and averaged 10.3 points and 3.3 rebounds per game. Of course, the reason Melton only played a half-dozen games for Golden State and is now available for the veteran minimum is because the 28-year-old suffered an ACL tear last November before the Warriors traded his contract to Brooklyn for Dennis Schroeder. Multiple outlets have reported that the Warriors have verbal agreements in place with both Melton and Horford. Those two would be needed reinforcements for a franchise that is looking to keep pace with the rest of the conference's superpowers. Yes, the Warriors did trade for Butler in a February move that could be considered Golden State's blockbuster transaction of the year. But as a second-round playoff exit after Curry's hamstring injury showed, teams need to add depth to survive in the postseason. The rest of the Western Conference has done just that. The Lakers recently agreed to a deal with lockdown defender Marcus Smart, while the Clippers brought in Bradley Beal and signed franchise legend Chris Paul. The Rockets have rebuilt their team around Kevin Durant. The Nuggets strengthened Nikola Jokic's supporting cast, and the Spurs are expected to take a leap with ascendant superstar Victor Wembanyama back in the fold. Aside from their long-linked targets in Horford and Melton, the Warriors, strapped for cap space, will look to fill out the rest of the roster with veteran minimum signings. Veteran guard Malcolm Brogdon, center Thomas Bryant, forward Torrey Craig, stretch 4 Trey Lyles, and Curry's younger brother Seth Curry are all still available. But no moves appear to be imminent until the Kuminga situation is resolved, and that may not happen anytime soon. Until then, the Warriors will remain stuck while the rest of the NBA gets better. While the Golden State Warriors continue to wait on Jonathan Kuminga's contract resolution, the rest of the NBA offseason isn't standing still. The latest major move comes from Southern California, where the Los Angeles Clippers have agreed to reunite with future Hall of Fame point guard Chris Paul, per ESPN's Shams Charania. Paul, 40, recently stated in an interview that he plans to play one more season before calling it a career, a farewell tour of sorts for one of the game's greatest floor generals. Originally drafted in 2005 by the then New Orleans Hornets, Paul's career has spanned 2 decades and 7 different franchises, 8 if you count the infamous vetoed Lakers trade. He became a true superstar during his first stint in Los Angeles from 2011 to 2017, where he led the Lob City era alongside Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. Paul remains the franchise's all-time leader in assists and earned 5 of his 12 career All-Star selections during that stretch. Since leaving the Clippers, Paul has played for the Houston Rockets, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Phoenix Suns, the Warriors, and most recently, the San Antonio Spurs. Last season with the Spurs, he appeared in all 82 regular season games, averaging 8.8 points and 7.4 assists while mentoring the team's young core. Now back in Los Angeles, Paul joins a revamped roster that includes off-season additions Bradley Beal, John Collins, and Brook Lopez, where he's expected to take on a role as the team's backup point guard. If this is indeed his final NBA season, Paul will get one last opportunity to chase that elusive championship, this time with the franchise where he helped redefine an era. With Jonathan Kuminga's rising contract demands and long-standing fit issues in Golden State, a potential sign-and trade could give him a fresh start while offering both the Warriors and Bulls a roster upgrade that addresses their current needs. Jonathan Kuminga's time with the Golden State Warriors might be coming to an end. The 21-year-old forward is currently a restricted free agent, and according to the Stein Line's Mark Stein, he and his agent are seeking a new contract worth at least $25 million per year, either a long-term deal or a shorter-term agreement at that price point. Warriors exploring sign-and-trade Kuminga deal with Bulls. The Warriors have reportedly shown interest in the sign-and-trade, and that is now being discussed as a real possibility. In a sign-and-trade, the Warriors would re-sign Kuminga to the contract he's looking for, only to immediately trade him to another team, in this case, the Chicago Bulls. Stein notes that Kuminga is hopeful Golden State will cooperate with such a deal, signaling real interest on both sides. Why Kuminga never fit Golden State's system. Despite his undeniable athletic gifts and flashes of scoring potential, Jonathan Kuminga was never an ideal fit in Golden State. The Warrior system relies heavily on ball movement, spacing, and high IQ decision-making, areas where Kuminga has consistently struggled. His game is built on isolation scoring and athletic drives, which often disrupt the Warriors' offensive flow. While he posted a career-high 16.8 points per game last season and stepped up with strong performances when Curry was out, the team's overall performance did not reflect his individual progress. In the 2024-25 season, the Warriors were 3.5 points per 100 possessions worse when Kuminga was on the floor, highlighting that his presence did not translate to a winning impact. Spacing and chemistry issues with Green and Butler. What made matters worse was the overall lack of spacing when Kuminga shared the floor with players like Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, two high-level playmakers who aren't respected as outside shooters. Both Butler and Green operate best with space around them, using their feel, strength, and vision to exploit defensive rotations and get into the paint. They need teammates who stretch the floor and force defenders to stay home, not another ball-dominant slasher who also doesn't command closeouts. Kuminga's skill set only added to the congestion. He's not a reliable shooter or a dangerous cutter. His value comes when the ball is in his hands, attacking downhill. But putting three non-shooters in the same lineup, each requiring touches to be effective, led to predictable offense and limited overall efficiency. The overlapping weaknesses became too glaring to ignore, and ultimately, Golden State couldn't justify building around that kind of fit. Kerr's offense wasn't built for Kuminga's style. Another key reason Kuminga struggled in Golden State was the structure of Steve Kerr's offense itself. Although not a traditional triangle, Kerr's system is heavily influenced by its core principles, emphasizing constant motion, spacing, read-and-react decision-making, and unselfish ball movement. It thrives when players can process the game quickly, move off the ball with purpose, and create advantages without needing isolations. For high IQ veterans like Curry, Butler, and Green, the system flows beautifully. But for someone like Kuminga, whose offensive strengths revolve around slashing and isolation, it became a tough environment to grow in. He wasn't a natural cutter, didn't consistently make quick reads, and often found himself either standing idle or breaking the rhythm with one-on-one plays. The offense wasn't built to give him the ball and clear out. It required trust, timing, and chemistry, and Kuminga never fully earned that from Kerr's staff. Even when he scored efficiently in stretches, his style of play clashed with the team's identity. In the long run, that made it difficult to envision building around him, regardless of his potential. Kuminga's numbers don't justify a central role. To be clear, the Warriors would love to build around Kuminga if he were dominant and efficient in the areas where he thrives most. However, the numbers don't yet support that. Even at the rim, a core part of his game, he converted 45% of his attempts, which is decent but not elite for someone whose main strength is athletic drives. Ideally, that number would be closer to 50% or higher. The bigger concern, however, is his performance in isolation, where he shot just 30% from the field. For a player whose offensive identity revolves around going one-on-one and creating off the dribble, that level of inefficiency simply doesn't cut it, especially in a system that values movement and quick reads over isolation-heavy play. Until those numbers improve, It's hard to justify building an offense around Kuminga's current strengths. Because of all these factors, the news that the Warriors are exploring a potential sign-in trade involving Jonathan Kuminga doesn't come as a surprise. It's actually something that feels increasingly expected given how things currently stand. Proposed trade: Kuminga to Bulls, Vucevic to Warriors. With Chicago emerging as a possible destination for Kuminga, I've proposed a trade between the Warriors and the Bulls that could benefit both sides. Warriors receive Nikola Vucevic. Bulls receive Jonathan Kuminga. Guay Santos. The Bulls have a young roster and Nikola Vucevic is, by far, the oldest player on the roster. From that perspective, this trade makes sense for Chicago. They'd be getting a much younger player in Jonathan Kuminga, someone they can continue to develop in an environment that currently suits him far better than Golden State ever did. Given all the reasons previously mentioned, Kuminga simply wasn't a fit with the Warriors, but a reset in Chicago could be exactly what he needs. Why Vucevic makes sense for Golden State. As for the Warriors, there have already been reports linking them to Vucevic in recent months, suggesting that there's legitimate interest in bringing the Montenegrin big man to the Bay. From a basketball standpoint, Vucevic would be a great fit in Golden State's system and fill a clear need on their roster. He's a skilled defensive center who can score in the post, knock down threes, and serve as a steady interior presence, something the Warriors have lacked in recent years. His ability to space the floor and operate as a hub in the half-court could add much-needed balance to an offense that often leaned too heavily on perimeter creation. Looking at his 2024-25 numbers, Vucevic averaged 18.5 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game, while shooting 53% from the field and an impressive 40.2% from three on nearly 4.6 attempts per game. His true shooting percentage was around 61.1%, showing just how efficient he was. For the Warriors, adding a big who can space the floor like that would be a game changer. In their half-court offense, especially during off-screen actions for Steph Curry, having a center who can pop out to the three-point line or act as a reliable secondary scoring option adds a new layer of complexity. Vucevic would create more space for Curry to operate, make it harder for defenses to blitz, and open up driving lanes for others like Butler or other players. Simply put, he gives Golden State an element they've been missing, a skilled scoring big who perfectly complements their motion-heavy system.